video taken by US Navy pilot appears to show an actual UFO. So this has again ignited a debate in the US if the
US Navy has revived a patent that can manipulate physics. Warp devices are no longer a fantasy. The entire community of scientists is shocked. If you want more deep dives like this, then do subscribe to our channel for more buried stories revelation videos. The patent that shouldn't exist.
General theory of relativity provides a number of ways to generate non-Newtonian gravitational.
Something strange landed at the desk of the United States Patent and Trademark Office in 2017, which looked like complete nonsense at first glance. This was not about a jet or a submarine, but it was about a device that allegedly manipulates inertia itself and goes against physics. The diagrams also didn't help understand the concept properly because there were no wings, no exhaust, and no visible propulsion. All it had was just a smooth, oblong-shaped object that was weirdly similar to a Tic-Tac type thing that Navy pilots already reported about.
The footage you are now watching is the US Navy FLIR film. This is the first video ever released by the US government.
It looked like a joke to the patent examiner, who is trained to filter fantasy from actual function. According to him, this joke went too far. This is exactly how it was treated at first, and the application was rejected. The reasoning was blunt. It relied on concepts like negative mass and negative energy density, which, according to mainstream physics, don't exist in any usable form.
Signature. And no visible means of propulsion.
The examiner cited violations of basic thermodynamics, and it was dismantled. In other words, it was impossible to create such a thing in the real world because the physics do not align with it. In normal cases, when a patent is rejected, the inventor moves on, and the case ends there. But this story does not end here, because this patent didn't come from some backyard inventor or any speculative startup, but it actually came from the US Navy. The Navy refused to accept impossible. The Navy pushed back because this patent was sent from their side, and they appealed to reconsider it. But when they failed, they started making the situation more intense. The Navy not only defended their idea, but they also strongly recommended it. When a sworn declaration letter was submitted to the Patent Office by one of the high-ranking technical officials from Naval Aviation. This letter to reconsider the patent was from the Chief Technology Officer of the Naval Air Systems Command and not from some random consultant or theorist. He clearly stated in that declaration, under penalty of perjury, that the technology described in the patent was not only theoretical or a joke, but it was actually operable. After reading this single word, everybody in the Patent Office got the idea that they were dealing with something serious. It was not about any wild ideas anymore, because now the national security claim was also in consideration. And this claim was made by a person who has access to several classified programs and also billions of dollars for research funding. At this point, the discussion was not about what is plausible in physics and what is not. But it was actually about the risk involved in this. Because if the Navy were right in their place, then rejecting such a patent would mean leaving a technology unprotected that is powerful enough to revolutionize the modern era. And if they are wrong, then something worse is happening at such a high level of command. This was the very first reason why this patent was reactivated. And it started being reconsidered not because the science mentioned had been proved right, but because of the pressure from the Navy. The China argument forced their hand. There was a line that flipped the entire process on its head, which was buried inside the appeal. The Navy warned that technologies similar to this patent were already being pursued by China. It did not matter if this statement was intelligence-based, speculative, or strategic, but the effect was immediate. The rules changed. Once the phrase national security entered the record, the Patent Office does not exist to gamble with geopolitical consequences, but it actually exists to evaluate novelty and feasibility. Denying the patent would have become a liability if there was even a small chance that a rival power could exploit the same concept. This is a shocking reason why the warp drive patent was revived, because the risk of not owning it was higher, and not because the science was proven. The idea that another nation might crack inertial mass reduction first was unacceptable in a world that is defined by hypersonic weapons, AI warfare, and space dominance. A technology that was once called impossible was officially granted because the Patent Office reversed course and objections were withdrawn. This announcement alone was shocking enough to shake the entire scientific community. The man behind the theory.
Very well known and very well liked. And then I went to Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. No, it's not a military school. It's actually very highly accredited. It usually makes the U.S. news.
The inventor behind the patent worked quietly inside a Navy research facility. He had real credentials and advanced degrees along with years of experience, which shows that he was not just a random inventor sending out weird, controversial ideas, but he was actually a professional and highly intellectual person. He kept a low profile throughout his career and gave no interviews or public lectures because he was focused only on his work and didn't care about fame and other stuff. This warp drive patent was not his only revolutionary idea, but he actually filed several patents, and all of them contained strange and controversial ideas. All these were filed in a short time, and they were also connected. This guy was not a fringe character, but he was a genius. Together, all these ideas described a completely new setup of a new way to move and a new way to generate energy. He was trying to give the world a new way to interact with space itself. At the center of all this chaos was what was later dubbed the Pies effect. It may sound a lot complicated with all those scientific terms and explanations, so I will give a small and simple version of it to understand it better. Empty space is not really empty because modern physics says it's full of tiny particles that appear and disappear constantly, which makes a loop. You can think of it as invisible foam. Now, Pies claimed that if you spin electric and magnetic fields fast enough, you can actually disturb these foams, and then you will be able to shape them or control them. And if you successfully do that, then you can create a bubble around an object, and inside that bubble, the object loses its mass. And when the mass drops to zero, the inertia disappears completely. And that is how a craft could be built with an inertial mass reduction device. And it can manipulate the inertia itself, which sounded impossible at first. Inertial mass reduction explains the unexplainable.
The gravitational field of the Earth, thus acting as a form of anti-gravity. Gravitational properties of matter. In studying analogies between electromagnetism and gravitation.
This is the point where things start getting familiar and less theoretical. A craft that has no inertia would not behave like a conventional aircraft. It would jump instead of accelerating gradually, and it would pivot instantly instead of turning in arcs. This craft would not care about gravity or resistance, and it could also travel through air, water, and space without generating any heat. It would produce no sonic booms. All those characteristics matched perfectly with only one thing that was reported as an unidentified aerial phenomenon observed by Navy pilots. The third reason why this patent matters is that it provides a framework that explains real-world encounters that were already on record, instead of just proposing a new technology. This overlap was impossible to ignore. Whether it was a coincidence or a correlation, the patent stops looking like science fiction and starts looking like documentation once you notice it. The energy problem that should have killed it. Every major objection about the warp drive patent came down to one single issue, and that was energy, because the numbers were insane. Terawatts of power is more energy than entire nations consume. And all of this was allegedly contained within a single craft. These reasons alone should have ended the conversation by conventional standards. But the patent suit didn't stop at propulsion because it included something even more controversial: a room temperature superconductor. The resistance disappears completely if such a material exists in the real world. Entire grids will change overnight because the power systems shrink, and energy loss will drop to zero as heat will become irrelevant.
There's been an increasing number of encounters. Most of them are suspected drones. Among the
It is a civilization-level breakthrough, and not just a military-level one. This also raises a disturbing question. Why would something this valuable be hidden inside a patent that everyone laughed at? This leads us to a point where the best way to hide the truth is to wrap it in something unbelievable. If you're enjoying this video so far, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more US Navy technology breakdowns. Abandoning the patent was the loudest signal. Something unexpected happened after these patents were secured. After all the efforts, the Navy stopped paying the maintenance fees quietly without any explanation, and the patents lapsed. Officially abandoned, Most observers thought the case was closed because the theory may have collapsed in the experiments. This looked like confirmation of failure. But history suggests another interpretation, that truly sensitive technologies don't remain in public patent databases. They move behind classification walls and disappear because they stop needing legal protection as secrecy replaces ownership. This is also a reason that the abandonment didn't mean the idea was useless, but instead, it may have meant the opposite. Public documentation becomes a liability once a technology crosses a certain threshold, and the fastest way to kill curiosity is to label something a dead end. The fork in the road. Either the Navy chased pseudoscience, wasted money, and quietly walked away, or they discovered something so disruptive that the fastest and safest move was to erase its public trail. These are the only two realistic explanations for this patent. Both these possibilities are unsettling. While one suggests institutional failure at the highest level, and the other suggests capabilities that would redefine warfare, power, and humanity's relationship with physics itself. The silence surrounding this issue does not resolve that tension, but instead amplifies it. The scientific backlash nobody talks about. Physicists didn't just disagree with the ideas, but they dismissed them outright when news of the patents leaked into academic circles. Papers were mocked, while the equations were called meaningless. That type of reaction is normal in the field of science. The strange thing here was how this topic became radioactive, and every discussion shut down. Very few researchers attempted to debunk this formally, while a lot of scientists usually get involved in such controversial topics. This type of reaction does not happen when an idea is merely wrong, but it happens when the idea threatens foundational assumptions. And in this case, if the inertial mass reduction were even partially real, entire branches of physics would need to be rewritten. In that context, ridicule becomes a defense mechanism, not against bad science, but against uncomfortable possibilities. Why silence is the most important clue. The most revealing detail about this patent is the abrupt silence, and not what the Navy has said, because in modern defense culture, silence is rarely accidental. When something is harmless, it is dismissed publicly, and if something is sensitive, it is ignored in public. The warp drive patents sit in the second category because they were just left alone, not attacked or defended. It leaves us with an unsettling realization that whatever the truth is, it isn't meant for public resolution. Everything from documents to patents and statements exists, and they are real, while only the truth is missing. We are only left with questions like, was this the biggest scientific failure of the Navy, or a breakthrough that is hidden from us? If you enjoyed this video, then do subscribe to our channel for more interesting new Navy technology breakthrough videos.